Al-Zawahiri was a terrorist originally from Egypt, who jointly planned with Osama bin Laden the attacks of September 11, and was one of the most wanted terrorists by the United States. He came from a highly respected family of professionals, also a doctor specializing in eye surgery. Having nothing to do with his professional studies, with his political leanings. When the United States hastily withdrew from Afghanistan in 2021, President Joe Biden vowed not to allow the new Taliban regime to make the country a safe haven for terrorists. Nearly a year later, the president's top security advisors informed him that intelligence agents may have located al-Qaeda leader Ayman al-Zawahiri in Afghanistan. Next, one of the most important missions accomplished in the United States in the last 5 years. That is, info ballistic. In briefings, government officials said they believed Zawahiri had returned to Afghanistan last year, after the collapse of the Western-backed Afghan government. U.S. spies were paying special attention to Afghanistan, looking for signs that al-Qaeda leaders were gradually returning to the country. Al-Zawahiri would have settled with his wife and daughter in a large complex with high protective walls in the center of Kabul. The neighborhood that Zawahiri chose, a relatively prosperous area called Chorpur, had hosted embassies and the homes of foreign diplomats under the previous administration. In early April, CIA intelligence authorities communicated something important to Biden's advisors, and then to him, that they had identified a network that supported the al-Qaeda leader and his family. The spies studied behavior patterns of the residents of the house, including the particular gestures of a woman who they identified as al-Zawahiri's wife. The officials claimed to have recognized her use of typical terrorist skills in trying to prevent people from accessing her husband's safe house in Kabul. They observed that, since he arrived at the house, al-Zawahiri never left the premises, and had the habit of peeking out from time to time, and for short periods of time, on a balcony facing the walls of the property. For Biden, the chance to take down one of America's most wanted men posed many risks. Al-Zawahiri lived in a very densely populated residential neighborhood, and the United States was mindful not to repeat certain mistakes, such as the drone attack, which accidentally killed 10 innocents in Kabul, including minors. In May and June, the U.S. leader focused on the war in Ukraine, and on pushing legislation on arms control and climate change. But in secret, a very small and select group of senior intelligence officials prepared various options to show the terrorist the weapons. On July 1, the U.S. president brought together top officials, including CIA Director William Burns, and Director of National Intelligence Avril Haines, for a briefing. Biden and his advisors evaluated a scale model of Zawahiri's home, which intelligence agents had built and brought to the White House. He asked for information on the structure of the building and, in particular, how he would take a hit from a Hellfire R-9X missile before flying to Camp David for a weekend break. They methodically planned the operation, trying to anticipate any questions the president might ask, and in parallel, a team of lawyers met to assess the legality of the attack, concluding that al-Zawahiri was a military target for his continuing leadership role in al-Qaeda, and its involvement and operational support for the group's attacks. On July 24, 2022, after calling one last meeting and seeking the opinion of his advisors, Biden authorized the attack. At 1:38 Greenwich Mean Time, 2 Hellfire missiles fired from a drone hit the balcony of Zawahiri's home, killing the al-Qaeda leader. After the impact, the windows of the house were blown to pieces, but no further damage was observed. This is because a little-known version of the Hellfire missile was used, which does not contain the characteristic explosive warhead that these missiles have. Only 6 blades that are deployed in the front area of the missile, as it approaches the target, plus enormous kinetic energy, caused by the speed of 425 meters per second of this weapon, in more technical language, Mach 1.3, or 1528 kilometers per hour. The Hellfire is a type of air-to-surface missile, common in United States anti-terrorist operations abroad, since the attacks of September 11, 2001. These projectiles can be fired from various platforms, such as helicopters, ground vehicles, ships, aircraft or unmanned drones, as in this case. The United States used Hellfire in the operations to finish off the Iranian General Qasem Soleimani in Baghdad at the beginning of 2020, and the jihadist Jihadi John in Syria in 2015. When these missiles are launched from a drone, the drone transmits live images of the target via satellite to a weapons operator in a control room, usually in the US, and the operator can fix the target on his screen and aim a laser at it. Thousands of kilometers away, in Washington, the president was informed of the success of the operation. On Sunday the 25th, the Taliban Ministry of the Interior informed the local newspaper Tolo that a rocket had hit an empty house without causing any casualties, without further details at that time. Shortly thereafter, however, the Biden administration announced that fighters from the Haqqani network, an ultraviolent wing of the Taliban, had removed al-Zawahiri's family from the location and tried to cover up his presence. When a journalist went to the house on Monday morning, a Taliban commando stopped him, pointing their AK-47 at him, and insisting that there was nothing to see. U.S. officials claimed that multiple intelligence sources had confirmed that al-Zawahiri had ultimately perished, and in what manner. After the operation, U.S. authorities revealed that they had enough information to know Zawahiri's behavior patterns, including his most disastrous mistake, going out onto the balcony of his apartment. American spies had been watching the house for months. Mark Polymeropoulos, a former senior CIA official, told reporters that various intelligence methods were used, from spies on the ground to signals intelligence. In the same way, drones and U.S. planes would have watched the place for weeks without being heard or seen from the ground. The Zawahiri attack, according to Polymeropoulos, was the product of decades of U.S. intelligence experience tracking members of Al-QAEDA and other terrorist targets. Bill Razio, senior fellow at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies, assessed that the attack on al-Zawahiri was probably much more difficult to carry out than the previous ones, due to the absence of U.S. government assets in the place and its surroundings. According to Biden administration sources, the U.S. authorities did not try to recover al-Zawahiri's remains. It is not clear what happened to al-Zawahiri's body after the attack, unlike what happened to his boss Osama bin Laden. On that occasion, the special forces recovered bin Laden's body to confirm his identity, before supposedly throwing it into the sea to prevent his grave from becoming a sanctuary for Islamists. As Biden delivered the news to the world from the White House, the Taliban vigorously cursed the U.S. actions on their soil. And they never put the name of al-Zawahiri in his mouth. He says a saying that he who kills with iron, dies with iron. What do you think? An absolute truth, or the biggest fallacy of all time? Leave your opinion in the comment box. This was Info Ballistic.